Hello and welcome back to the show. You are listening to a very special, limited series of The Deep Dive. We're calling it Building Humans, and it's proudly sponsored by the Al-Mahaba Foundation and Dar el-Kalima Publishing.
It's great to be here.
I'm your host, and today
we are going to do something a little bit dangerous. We're going to take a really hard look at the one place we all assume is a sanctuary, our own homes.
And dangerous is the right word, because the ideas we're getting into from Chapter 6 of Maria Montessori's Education in Peace, well, they're going to shake the very foundations of what we think a family is supposed to look like.
I want to start with a question for you and, for everyone listening. If I went to a playground right now and I saw a parent, the one, looking exhausted, pushing a swing for the 1,000th time, and I asked them, what's your job description? What do you think they'd say?
Oh, that's easy. The answers would be pretty much the same across the board. They'd say, I'm a provider, or I'm a protector.
Right. They'd almost certainly talk about sacrifice, how they work so hard, give up their sleep, their hobbies, all for the child.
Exactly. The whole story of parenting is built on that idea of noble sacrifice. We're the guardians. But, and this is where the record just scratches to a halt. When you open this chapter, Montessori doesn't use the word guardian.
No.
She doesn't use protector. She uses a word that, I'm being honest, when I first read it, it made me physically recoil. She calls the adult a tyrant.
And she doesn't stop there. She uses the specific term, the dictator.
The dictator.
Yeah.
It feels so aggressive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, calling a loving mother or devoted father a dictator, it feels like an insult. It feels like she's questioning the very love that we all feel.
I completely understand that reaction. It feels like an attack on your character. But we have to remember who's writing this. Montessori was a physician, a scientist.
Okay.
When a doctor diagnoses a heart arrhythmia, they aren't insulting your personality. They're describing a mechanical failure in the system. Montessori isn't questioning the parents' intention. She knows parents love their children. She's criticizing the actions that come from this deep systemic ignorance.
So wait, she's saying we can be loving in our hearts, but tyrannical in our actions.
Precisely. She argues we're unconsciously waging a war against our own children simply because we don't understand who they are. We think we're helping, but actually, we're suppressing.
Okay, let's unpack that. If we're suppressing them, that changes everything. And she traces this all back to one root cause. She calls it the serious error.
The serious error. It sounds ominous, and it is. This error is the fundamental belief held by almost every adult that they are the creator of the child.
I mean, biologically, aren't we? We pass on our genes, we make the baby.
We provide the physical material, yes. But Montessori argues that we mix up physical reproduction with spiritual creation. We believe we are the creators of the child's personality, their intelligence, their will.
We see them as an empty vessel.
Exactly. The classic tabula rasa, the blank slate. We see this inert, passive lump of clay. And because we think it's empty, we believe it's our job, our burden, really, to fill it up. We have to mold their character, force feed them intelligence.
And if I'm the sculptor and you're the clay, then I own you. I have total control.
That is the root of the dictatorship. The thought process is, I created you, therefore I am entitled to absolute control. It's a God complex. But the reality, according to Montessori, is that the child is not an empty vessel at all. She introduces the concept of the spiritual embryo.
This is such a key term, spiritual embryo. It implies there's something already there.
Well, think about a physical embryo in the womb. You, the parent, you don't build the baby's liver. You don't decide where the thumbs go.
Right.
The physical embryo has an internal blueprint, a set of laws that directs its own growth. It builds itself.
Yeah. If I tried to reach in and help it grow an arm, I'd cause a complete disaster.
Exactly. And Montessori says this is true for the mind as well. The child is born with this spiritual embryo, an internal, pre-existing plan for their psychological development. They have their own laws of growth, their own timeline.
So the child isn't clay. They're more like, what, a seed?
A seed is a perfect analogy. You don't make an acorn into an oak tree. The plan for the oak is already inside. Your job is just to provide the right conditions. The soil, the water, the light. But the dictator parent doesn't see a seed. They see clay. And so they start mashing and pulling, trying to force a shape that pleases them.
Okay, so how does this dictatorship actually look in real life? Because, most parents aren't marching around in uniforms. We think we're nice people. What does this look like on a Tuesday morning?
It looks like the total suppression of the child's natural rhythms to fit the adult's convenience. It's subtle, but it's constant. Think about the commands. We say, go to sleep now. Why? Is the child tired?
Often no. They're wide awake, jumping on the bed.
We say it because we are tired. We say, eat now. Not because the child's hungry, but because I'm done cooking and I need to clean up.
Be quiet. Not because silence is needed for their growth, but because I have a headache or I'm on a call.
Exactly. We force the child's biology to adapt to our psychology. We substitute their will with our own. In politics, if one group forces another to live by their rules for their convenience, we call that tyranny. In the home, we just call it good parenting.
Wow, that hits hard. We're essentially colonizing their lives.
And this leads us right to the core metaphor she uses. It's vivid and a little heartbreaking. She describes the home not as a nest, but as a battleground between the giant and the dwarf.
The giant and the dwarf sounds like a fairy tale, but I'm guessing this doesn't have a happy ending.
No, it does not. The adult is the giant. We have all the resources. We own the food, the shelter. We have immense physical strength. And, crucially, we have the power to organize the whole environment.
And the child is the dwarf, weak, dependent, living in a world not built for them.
But the real conflict isn't just about size. It's about time. It's a conflict of rhythms.
What do you mean?
The giant loves efficiency. The giant walks fast, eats fast. The giant's goal is always the destination. Let's get to the car. Let's get this done.
I feel so seen right now. That is
Yeah.
me. Put your shoes on, we have to go, we're late. I say that at least 5 times a morning.
We all do. But the dwarf moves slowly. The dwarf lives in the process. They'll stop to look at a crack in the sidewalk because it's fascinating. The dwarf wants to button their own shirt, even if it takes 20 minutes, because the process of buttoning is how they build themselves.
And that's the clash.
Or-
The giant wants the button done now. The dwarf wants to do the buttoning.
And the giant gets furious. We're late, let me do it, and rips the task away. This is what Montessori calls the unconscious battle. A hidden war in our homes. The child is trying to grow through activity. The adult is trying to get comfortable by enforcing efficiency and silence.
And because the giant is stronger,
The giant always wins.
that's a heavy thought. The giant always wins. So, what happens to the dwarf?
This is the real tragedy. When the giant wins, when the child stops fighting, stops trying to button the shirt, stops asking questions, we pat ourselves on the back. We call that child obedient.
We call them good. Ah, he's so well behaved. He just sits so still.
But Montessori argues, we've created a mutilated man. We've broken their will. We've taught them that their internal drive is wrong and that safety only comes from passivity and waiting for orders. We crush the spiritual embryo.
So let's flip that. When a child is being naughty, screaming because they want to put on their own shoes, or climbing furniture, Montessori wouldn't see that as bad behavior.
No, not at all. She would reframe naughtiness completely, that rebellion. It's the child's desperate defense of their right to exist. It's a fight for survival of their psychological self.
Huh. It really changes how you see a tantrum. You're not dealing with a brat. You're dealing with a tiny freedom fighter.
A freedom fighter in the land of giants. And that brings us to the actual terrain of this war, the environment. Montessori asks us to do something really hard. Visualize your own home through the eyes of a 3-year-old.
Okay, I'm doing it. I'm 3 feet tall. I walk into the kitchen.
Look around. The sink. It's a porcelain basin hovering way above your head. You can't wash your hands. The chair. It's a heavy wooden throne. You can't move it. The doorknob. Out of reach.
It's a prison designed for giants.
It is a hostile environment. It prohibits independence. Every single thing you need, you have to beg the giant for.
And that creates a feedback loop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The child begs for help, so the adult thinks, see, you're helpless. I have to control you.
Exactly. I must be a dictator because you're incapable. But they're only incapable because we built a world where it's impossible for them to be capable.
So what's the solution? I can't shrink my house, and I can't just let the kids run wild. That's not the answer either.
No, chaos is not freedom. The solution is what Montessori calls constructing the environment.
Which means?
It means if you want to stop shouting commands, you have to change the physical space. If you don't want to lift your child to the sink, get a step stool. If you don't want to fight about clothes, put them in a low drawer they can reach.
So stop commanding the child and start managing the space.
Precisely. When you provide tools and furniture sized for the child, something magical happens. The dictator isn't needed anymore. Order comes from the environment and the work, not from your shouting.
And that connects to that surprising phrase in the text where she says the child becomes a lover of silence.
Yes, but not the silence of fear, be quiet because I said so. She means the silence of deep engagement, of flow. When a child is working on a task that fits their size and ability, they become incredibly calm and focused.
It sounds like we need to resign.
That is exactly it. We have to talk about the resignation of the tyrant.
I like that. The king is dead. But if we aren't the creator and we aren't the dictator, what are we? What's the new job?
We become the servant, the observer.
Okay, servant is a loaded word. I can hear people pushing back right now. I cook, I clean, I drive them everywhere. I already am the servant.
But this is where Montessori warns us about the mask of love.
The mask of love. Sounds deceptive.
It is. We tell ourselves we do everything for them out of love. I'll tie your shoes because I love you. But
Yeah.
are we really doing it for them? Or are we doing it because it's faster for us?
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is definitely faster to just tie the shoes myself than watch my toddler struggle for 10 minutes.
Of course. But that isn't service. It's convenience. That's the mask of love hiding the face of the dictator. We rob the child of the victory just so we can get out the door a little faster. True service is helping the child to act for themselves. It's the patience to watch them struggle.
It changes the whole definition of a good parent. A good parent isn't the one who does everything for the child. It's the one who makes themselves unnecessary.
That is the ultimate goal, to become obsolete. And if we connect this to the bigger theme of education and peace,
The mission of this whole deep dive.
we see that peace in the world can't exist if the first relationship we ever have is based on oppression. If a child grows up under a dictator, what do they learn about power?
That power means forcing other people to submit. That might be right.
Exactly. They become adults who either want to be dictators themselves or who look for a dictator to follow because they've been trained to be passive. They become, as she says, the forgotten citizen.
So the structure of the family replicates itself in the state.
Peace begins when the dictator at home is deposed. When the home becomes a place where the dwarf is respected by the giant, that's the science of peace and practice. It all connects back to the cosmic task. The child's task is to build the person they are meant to be. Our task is to let them.
It's incredible. The idea that world peace could start with a child-sized broom or a low shelf.
It sounds simple, but it is revolutionary. We're talking at stopping an unconscious war. We have to look at our homes and ask, are we giants suppressing dwarfs? Or are we gardeners tending to a seed that already has its own plan?
It's a lot to process. We're asking people to rewire their entire parenting instinct. It's scary to let go of that control.
It is, but the reward is a relationship based on respect, not command. And a child who is whole, not mutilated.
And that leads us perfectly into our next deep dive. Because once you resign as dictator, you need a new strategy.
No, you can't just do nothing. Resignation is step one. You need the practical magic key. Next time, we are going to talk about the most famous Montessori idea of all, the plea from the child. Teach me to do it myself.
I cannot wait for that. It's the practical how-to after today's what not to do.
It's the handbook for this new relationship.
As always, we are just scratching the surface. To really understand the science of peace and the spiritual embryo, you have to read the source material. It's dense, but it's so worth it. You can find the book Education and Peace from our friends at Dar El Kalima Publishing.
It's a book that doesn't just change how you teach, it changes how you see human beings.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a thought. We talked about the giant and the dwarf. Next time you see your child acting out or being slow or making a mess, just for a second, take a breath, crouch down, literally get on your knees, look at the world from their height, and just ask yourself, am I helping them build themselves, or am I just trying to keep the giant comfortable?
Powerful question.
Thank you for listening. This has been a deep dive into building humans. Remember our motto: host speaker and expert speaker, love for all, service for everyone.